Welcome to Cranium Snacks, where curiosity always comes with a twist. Today, we're unraveling a mystery that's as gripping as any Sherlock Holmes case. Why did Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the genius behind the world's greatest detective, try to kill off his most famous creation? Was it frustration, rebellion, or something even deeper?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes feels almost like a real historical figure to so many people.
Oh, totally.
Not just some character made up by an author.
For sure.
He's totally transcended the page.
Yeah.
Become this cultural icon.
Absolutely. So how did this larger-than-life detective come to be?
Well, okay, picture this. It's the late 1800s,
Okay.
and Arthur Conan Doyle, a young doctor, is getting pretty fed up. Oh, yeah, with the detective stories of the time.
Okay.
They were all like sensationalism and coincidences,
Ah.
lacking the logic and deduction that he craved.
It's interesting because unlike those sensation novels that were popular,
Uh-huh.
where crimes were just solved by chance,
Yeah.
Doyle envisioned a detective who was relying on logic and observation, almost like Edgar Allan Poe's C. Auguste Dupin,
Oh, yeah.
but like taken to a whole new level.
Yes, exactly.
And this is where it gets super interesting. Doyle's own medical professor,
Oh, right.
Dr. Joseph Bell,
Yeah.
was famous for making these incredible deductions just by observing his patients.
It's true. Dr. Bell could diagnose a patient's illness, pinpoint their nationality, even guess their occupation,
Wow.
just by looking at them,
What?
like a real-life Sherlock Holmes.
I read this amazing anecdote
Oh, tell me.
about Dr. Bell,
Oh.
deducing that a patient was a recently discharged soldier who had served in Barbados.
Yeah.
Just by, he noticed a slight limp and a tan line on the man's wrist, where a watch would usually sit,
Uh-huh.
but military men wore their watches on the other wrist.
Oh, wow.
It's mind-blowing how these tiny details can reveal so much.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what Doyle captured in Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
The sharp observation that leads to these brilliant deductions.
Yeah.
But here's where we get to a fascinating contradiction.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, are you ready for this?
I am.
Doyle, the creator of the ultra-logical, reason-driven Holmes,
Yeah.
was deeply interested in the paranormal.
No way.
Yes. Seances, mediums, fairies, you name it.
Really?
He was intrigued by it all.
Wow.
Makes you wonder, how could the same mind create such contrasting ideas?
It's a fascinating dichotomy.
It is.
But, writers often explore concepts that they don't personally believe in.
It's true.
It's about pushing boundaries, creating compelling narratives.
right.
Plus, Doyle wasn't alone in his interest in the occult.
No, he wasn't.
Marie Curie, a two-time Nobel Prize winner,
Yeah.
attended seances. And even Isaac Newton dabbled in alchemy.
That's amazing.
It's like this secret society of brilliant minds
right?
exploring these mysteries beyond science.
Yeah.
Definitely puts Doyle's fascination in a new light for me.
It does.
It adds this layer of complexity to the relationship between Doyle and his most famous creation.
It does. And speaking of that relationship,
Yes.
it's not as straightforward as you might think.
Oh, really?
You see, Sherlock Holmes was just one small part of Doyle's massive output.
Right.
He wrote over 200 short stories and 22 novels.
And yet Sherlock Holmes is the one he's most remembered for.
Exactly. It's ironic.
It is.
Doyle actually resented that a bit.
Really?
He felt like Holmes overshadowed his other work,
Oh.
which he considered more serious, more literary.
Mhm.
He even tried to kill off Holmes in The Final Problem.
He tried to kill off his most famous creation.
He did.
What do you think drove him to that?
Well, I think he felt trapped by the character's popularity. He wanted to move on to other projects, but the public outcry was huge.
I bet.
People were heartbroken.
Oh, wow.
Imagine mourning the death of a fictional character.
It's wild.
It shows how deeply Holmes had captured the public imagination.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Doyle had to bring him back.
Talk about the power of fans.
I know it.
So what made Holmes so captivating?
Whoa.
The sources we're looking at list these pretty impressive skills.
Yeah.
Expert in disguises,
Okay.
single-stick boxing swordsmanship.
Wow.
It's a wonder he even had time to solve crimes with all those hobbies.
I know, right?
And that's just the physical stuff.
Right.
Master of observation,
Yeah.
deduction, able to connect seemingly insignificant details and draw these startling conclusions.
Yes.
Don't forget his ability to analyze trace evidence,
Oh, yes.
like footprints, tobacco ash, handwriting,
Uh-huh.
even bullet comparisons, which
Sure.
all became standard police procedure much later.
Yeah.
I never realized how much Holmes's methods influenced real detective work.
It's fascinating if you think about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Holmes was fictional, but his methods were rooted in the emerging forensic science of Doyle's time.
Oh, wow.
He popularized these ideas and inspired real detectives to think more scientifically. Take that bullet comparison example you mentioned.
Right.
Holmes's fictional use of this technique foreshadowed the development of ballistics
Wow.
as a forensic science,
Yeah.
which revolutionized criminal investigations.
So in a way, this fictional character helped shape the real world of criminal investigation.
Totally. It's incredible.
That's amazing.
Like this fictional character became a blueprint for real-world investigation.
It's wild.
But even with all these skills, he wasn't perfect.
Oh, that's true. Remember the yellow face? Oh, yeah. Even Sherlock Holmes had his off days.
He did.
It's interesting that Doyle wasn't afraid to show that his brilliant detective, could make mistakes.
Exactly. It makes him more relatable, more human.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even the most brilliant minds can be misled or overlook crucial information.
For sure.
It's a good reminder for all of us
Yeah.
to constantly question our assumptions
Yeah.
and be open to new evidence, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it's that human element that makes these stories so engaging, right?
Right.
It's not just about the puzzle.
Yeah.
It's about the flaws, the emotions.
The relationships.
Yeah, the relationships that make these characters come to life.
Precisely. Take Holmes and Watson's friendship, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a classic dynamic.
Yeah.
This brilliant but eccentric detective,
Right.
paired with the loyal, more grounded companion,
Totally.
they balance each other out,
I do.
challenge each other,
Yeah.
and ultimately they need each other.
Yeah, and it's Watson who narrates these stories.
Right.
Giving us this window into Holmes's world.
That's right.
But even their relationship had its complexities.
Oh, for sure.
Remember how frustrated Watson got with Holmes's drug use?
Yes, and that actually reflected real-life concerns at the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Cocaine and morphine were readily available in Victorian England,
Wow.
and their addictive nature wasn't fully understood.
It's wild to think about it now.
It is.
But it shows how Doyle was engaging with the social issues of his day, even through these seemingly fantastical stories.
Absolutely. And speaking of social context,
Yes.
it's also important to remember that while Holmes's methods were groundbreaking for their time,
Right.
they were still limited by the knowledge and technology available back then.
Oh, totally. He didn't have DNA testing or facial recognition software at his fingertips.
No.
He had to rely on his own observations and deductions.
Exactly. Which in a way makes his achievements even more impressive.
That's true.
He was pushing the boundaries of what was possible with the tools he had.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most important tool is the human mind, our ability to observe, analyze, and connect the dots.
Okay, so we've talked about Doyle's inspiration for Holmes,
All right.
their contrasting beliefs,
Yeah.
the detective's impact on criminal investigation.
Even his flaws.
Right.
But there's one thing in these sources that I'm still struggling with.
I think I know what you're going to say.
The sources mention that Holmes's knowledge of literature and astronomy was nil.
Yes.
But then they say he was an expert on 16th century polyphonic motets.
Yes.
How does that fit with his whole philosophy of only storing useful information?
It's a great question.
It is.
And there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Doyle's way of adding another layer of complexity to the character.
Okay.
Or perhaps it's a clue that even Holmes, with his rigid logic, couldn't entirely escape the allure of the beautiful and seemingly useless.
Interesting.
To understand it a bit more, imagine multiple melodies weaving together,
Okay.
creating this rich tapestry of sound.
Yeah.
That's what a polyphonic motet is like.
Right.
Perhaps Holmes saw a certain beauty and intellectual challenge in these complex musical pieces.
It's definitely something to ponder.
It is.
And it speaks to the enduring mystery of Sherlock Holmes.
For sure. Even after all these years,
yeah.
all these stories, there's still so much we don't know about him.
I know.
It's like Doyle created this puzzle that we're all still trying to solve,
Yeah.
even if he didn't have all the answers himself.
Right.
And that's part of the beauty of it, right?
Sure it is.
It allows us to keep exploring,
Yes.
keep theorizing,
Uh-huh.
keep our own inner Sherlocks engaged.
Exactly.
It really is amazing how these stories just continue to spark our imaginations and just keep us guessing.
They really do.
Speaking of keeping us guessing,
Yeah.
we can't wrap up this deep dive without talking about the huge fandom surrounding Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
There are societies, museums, even academic journals dedicated to this guy.
I know. It's incredible how people feel like they actually know Sherlock Holmes personally.
Yeah,
They've spent so much time with him, like in their minds.
Yeah.
He feels almost real.
right.
which leads to this really fascinating phenomenon
What's that?
called the Great Game.
The Great Game. That sounds intriguing. Tell me more. What is that all about?
Well, it's basically this whole community of Sherlock Holmes fans
Okay.
who treat the stories as if they were real historical documents
Interesting.
to try to fill in the gaps, explain the inconsistencies, and create a complete picture of Holmes's world.
So they're like real-life Sherlock Holmeses,
Yes.
trying to solve the mysteries within the mysteries.
Exactly. They debate things like Holmes's exact birth date,
Oh, wow.
the origins of Watson's war wound,
Huh.
even the layout of 221B Baker Street.
It's like this giant collaborative puzzle
It is.
where everyone contributes their own deductions and theories.
Exactly.
That's incredible. It just goes to show how powerful these stories are.
I know.
Well, they can inspire this level of engagement and creativity decades later.
Absolutely. It speaks to the enduring legacy of Sherlock Holmes.
For sure.
He's not just a character.
Right.
He's this cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
He's inspired countless other detectives, shape the genre of crime fiction. And he continues to fascinate new generations of readers and viewers.
He does.
And it all started with Arthur Conan Doyle,
Yeah.
a doctor who loved logic and the paranormal,
It's true.
who created this character that would outlive him and become a global icon.
So what does this all mean for you, dear listener?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a reminder to just pay attention to the small details.
Mm.
Hone your own powers of observation.
Right.
Or maybe it's simply an excuse to just revisit those stories, get lost in that world of logic, mystery, and adventure.
Or maybe maybe it will inspire you to start your own deep dive into the world of Sherlock Holmes.
I love that.
Because trust me, there's always more to discover.
And there you have it, the curious tale of how the man who gave us Sherlock Holmes tried to take him away. Was it an act of literary liberation or just creative exhaustion? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss our next adventure, where we find buried treasure in Havre, Montana. Until then, stay curious, and we'll see you next time on Cranium Snacks.